What's up, guys? It's Ben with 2020 election predictions, and today I'm going to be doing a 2024 matchup between Josh Hawley, the U.S. Senator from Missouri, and Stacey Abrams, a potential vice presidential choice for Joe Biden this election cycle. And I want to say thank you to Avery J. Douglas for suggesting this video. A lot of people in my comments have wanted this video, so I definitely wanted to follow through on that. And also, I want to thank this software that I'm going to be using today, yapms.com. Just Deca also suggested that in the comments. So I'm going to be trying that out today, so let me know how this goes. And just an update, the three people who've won the giveaway have not contacted me yet, so y'all are still out there. I'd love to give you your giveaway. And I want to make an announcement for my next giveaway. It will be if by the end of May, by June 1st, if I get 500 subscribers, right now I'm at 270, and 1,000 watch hours, which will probably come if I get 500 subscribers, I'll be doing an even bigger giveaway. So more dollar amount and to more of my lucky subscribers. So awesome. So just diving right in. This is the electoral map as I see it, just kind of baseline with the safe and likely states on either end. Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, and Virginia have been trending leftward a lot recently. These states were competitive kind of back in the early 2000s, but now just have, based on historical data and polling, they've just been trending leftward. So I think whoever the Democratic nominee is, um, Democrats will hold an advantage. And then I have all the kind of the solid Republican states, and I'll kind of get into why I think these states are likely not necessarily safe. So just jumping right in, Josh Hawley and Stacey Abrams. In 2024, there's going to be a lot of variables that are going to be hard to predict, like whether Joe Biden or Donald Trump wins the election. In this scenario, I actually think it's more likely that Joe Biden wins in 2020 and Stacey Abrams is Joe Biden's vice president, and Joe Biden only chooses to do one term, which I think is very likely considering his old age. And one thing that's pretty interesting to note is that Josh Hawley is 40 years old. He's the youngest member of the Senate right now. And Stacey Abrams is pretty young too. She is 46 years old, although she still has not held federal office. Of course, if she's vice president, which I'm kind of assuming this scenario, then she would be. And then also the electoral map allotment per state is not going to be accurate in 2024. Obviously, there's a 2020 census, which you should fill out if you haven't done that yet. And so a lot of these states are going to change. Like Texas will probably gain a few electoral votes. California might lose a few. And there's just going to be some trends. It's not going to affect it too much, but especially when elections are so close, like I predict the 2020 election to be, it will matter going forward. So going forward, so just starting right in, I think Ohio and Iowa are going to be likely Republican states. Obviously, Iowa's very near Missouri for Josh Hawley and Ohio, and these are states with a high white working class population. I don't think Stacey Abrams will be able to appeal to them very well. Her main appeal is kind of in the South, and with high African American populations. And although Obama won these states twice, Donald Trump has kind of upended politics. And Josh Hawley is in a similar mold to Donald Trump in some respects, in that he's very populist and I would say kind of a China hawk, and also kind of a populist against big tech, which Trump is kind of running on in his own way. So I think that Josh Hawley will definitely be able to carry these two states like Donald Trump did in 2016. I think that he'll likely do this in 2020 as well. Okay, so going forward, so those are all the safe and likely states. Now I'm going to be moving to the tilt and lean states. So the first lean state that I want to do is the state of Wisconsin. I think that this state leans towards Republicans. Obviously, out of the Rust Belt, it's the most Republican friendly. And I think that Josh Hawley will do a lot better in the Rust Belt than Stacey Abrams. I think Stacey Abrams, while she has a huge appeal in the South, like in Georgia, North Carolina, and even in these states that are traditionally Republican, I label these as likely, not even safe, because I do think Stacey Abrams will be able to outperform the traditional Democrat. But I just don't think Stacey Abrams is going to have the national appeal per se, like kind of in these um, northeastern and Rust Belt states that traditionally are not as diverse as the South and even the Midwest. And so, frankly, I think this is the only state that is going to lean towards the um, Republicans. The rest of the states are going to be very, very close. Actually, I take that back. I also think that Pennsylvania is going to lean towards the Republicans, similarly to the reason why Wisconsin does too. They have a high white population in the Rust Belt, and I just think that Josh Hawley will be able to connect to some of these blue collar workers in a way that Stacey Abrams will not. So next up, moving to the lean Democratic states, and this actually might surprise some people, but I think that Georgia will lean to the Democrats. Oops. Um, Obviously, Stacey Abrams is from Georgia, and she just very narrowly lost the gubernatorial election in Georgia, and Georgia's demographics are changing very quickly. And I really don't think that Josh Hawley will make a play for Georgia. I think that he will mainly try to appeal and campaign in these other states in these northern states and the Rust Belt states where he has more of a chance of winning. And I think Stacey Abrams will just have the state as a lock. And I don't think Josh Hawley, he'll look at the electoral map and say, look, I can afford to lose Georgia. It's Stacey Abrams' home state, and it's going to be hard to win the state when she has that home court advantage there. Okay, so I'm kind of going to be splitting hairs here, and it's going to be hard to predict these states so far in advance. Obviously, there's a ton of variables, like whether Joe Biden or Donald Trump wins in 2024. But next up, I'm just going to go to the tilt states. So I think that Arizona will tilt towards the Democrats. This is a state that I think Joe Biden could win, and I could even see this as a lean Democratic state, just because the demographics are changing so quickly, and um, I think Stacey Abrams will be able to win the state like any Democrat would. And then next up is the state of Maine at large. Um, I think this just tilts towards the Democrats. Like maybe Stacey Abrams only wins the state by 1 or 2 points, or even less than 1 point. I think Josh Hawley will do a lot better in the state just because it has such a large white working class, and I think Josh Hawley will kind of be this energizer because he's a young person, um, and that he'll be able to maybe expand Donald Trump's base a little bit. Obviously, Donald Trump lost his state by like 2 or 3 points, but I actually think Josh Hawley will be able to outperform um, Donald Trump. And just because Stacey Abrams, I don't think, is as strong as an opponent as Hillary Clinton necessarily was, even though her appeal is in different things. So obviously, Stacey Abrams appeals to African Americans more than Hillary Clinton did, but I don't think Stacey Abrams will be able to connect to the white working class as much. Okay, next up is North Carolina. I think that this state also tilts towards the Democrats. While it is traditionally a state that Republicans have had an advantage on, just because North Carolina has a large African American population, it's part of the South, which is kind of um, Stacey Abrams' territory. It's kind of her home court advantage. I see this state as very narrowly leaning towards the Democrats. Although I could see Josh Hawley making a play for this. Obviously, Missouri's kind of weird. It's in the a little bit of the middle of the country. It can be considered the South too. So maybe Josh Hawley can have some appeal here too. So next up, I'm going to go to the tilt Republican states. And these are all going to be very, very close. I think Florida um, will tilt towards the Republicans. Sorry, I'm getting used to this new software, but please let me know if you like it. Um, Florida is still trending towards the Republicans. It has a largely old population. I think it'll be very interesting since both of the nominees are so young, 40 and 46, compared to in 2020 when the nominees are so old, both over 70. But I think Josh Hawley has this very charming attitude, and even his kind of anti tech rhetoric, I think, will be able to resonate with a lot of older people who have always kind of been suspicious of new technology. And so I definitely think that Florida is a tilt towards Josh Hawley. Obviously, there's so many variables. Stacey Abrams will have a little bit of a home court advantage just because it's so close to Georgia, but I think at the end of the day that Josh Hawley will pull this out. Next up is Texas. I think Texas leans towards the Republicans as well. A lot of people think that Texas is going to go in 2020 or indefinitely in 2024. I don't think Stacey Abrams will be able to appeal to the state at large in Texas. Texas does not have a large African American population. It has a large Hispanic and white population. And I think Josh Hawley will be able to do better and connect to these voters just because since Texas has been traditionally Republican. Josh Hawley is a Christian, pro life, um, like for like traditional marriage, and I think this will resonate with a lot of the Christian voters in Texas. So next up is Minnesota. This is pretty interesting. Minnesota has a high white population, and typically it goes to the Democrats. But I actually think that Josh Hawley will be able to carry this. I just don't see Stacey Abrams being able to appeal to the electorate in Minnesota. It's heavily blue collar workers, and it's very different from the composite of the Georgia ele- electorate. And I think it's closer to Missouri, and I think Missouri and Minnesota actually share a lot of the same demographics, even though Minnesota is more north of it. And Minnesota is a state that's hard to poll, but recently over the past few elections, we've just seen it trending towards the Republicans. So it makes sense that this will fall into the Republicans' column one time. So, lastly, the tipping point state in this election, Michigan. I do see this as a tilt Republican state. While it is definitely the most favorable to the Democrats among the Rust Belt states, I do see this as a tilt towards the Republicans right now. Michigan does have a higher African American population than the Rust Belt states, largely because of Detroit and Flint. So I do think Stacey Abrams can make gains there, but I think that Josh Hawley right now just holds a structural advantage on the state. And I left out New Hampshire. I do, and although it doesn't really matter right now, I do think New Hampshire will tilt towards the Republicans too. It was the closest state in 2016. Donald Trump made a lot of gains there, and although Donald Trump's not very popular, his approval rating is like -25. Josh Hawley is a fresh face to the Republican Party, and I think can energize a lot of these voters. And as you can see, this electoral map looks a lot different than it did in 2016, and it has looked in the past. And I think this just reflects how the demographics are changing and how the Republicans and Democrats' appeal will change. So, in these states that are increasingly becoming more diverse, like Georgia, North Carolina, Texas, and Arizona, they're going to start trending towards the Democrats. I think Texas is going to go blue at least by 2028. And I think more of these states that kind of have a higher white population that and a high blue collar population that have gone to the Democrats because of unions and union protection and stuff like this. I think these are starting to trend towards the Republicans. And you might even see Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, and Delaware, Maryland start heading towards the Republicans, definitely Maine. And I think this is just going to be a reflection of how these states are changing kind of at the macro scale. A lot of these northeastern states have Republican governors who just they have low taxes and they don't really dive into social issues. And so I definitely don't expect Josh Hawley to emphasize kind of these divisive social issues as much, but kind of run on his populist campaign of lower taxes. I'm going to take on big tech. Big tech is corrupt, and he's going to really emphasize privacy and things like this. So thank you for watching my video. As you can see, I think Josh Hawley would narrowly beat Stacey Abrams. Obviously, the exact numbers would be different because of the electoral vote allotment, But going forward, I just want to say I'm gonna put more time into my videos. I'm just finishing up exams. That's why I haven't been able to upload as much. But I definitely want to provide you with the best quality and research information. So going forward, I'm going to be doing a lot of things and doing a lot of research, and I'm going to try to make unique and very entertaining videos. So thank you for watching, and have a nice day. And please subscribe if you haven't.